Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be feeling off your game. Well, I've got two really good emails I'm going to go through with you. The first email is from a guy. A couple weeks ago, I did an email with, it was called Dating a Dominant Alpha Female. And so I kind of reamed him out a little bit, told him to take the stick out of his ass. He was being a little too stiff and not playful enough. And so he obviously has taken some corrective action since then. But he's got some other things he's kind of struggling with mindset-wise, that he says when he's dating women that he perceives to be a 9 or a 10, he feels off his game. He's struggling with it because obviously he's just not used to dating the kind of women that he's always dreamt of. And so the second email is from a guy that's kind of struggled with the same thing, and he's currently involved with a woman that he feels the same way, that she's like a 9 or a 10, and when he feels off his game, he goes through how he's catching himself when he starts to pursue too much and how he's backing off, and you can kind of see how well that's working for him. So it's two good contrasts with two guys that had the same kind of issue. One's, obviously the second one's doing better at this particular point. So I got a quote that I wrote, and then we'll jump into the first guy's email. And so the quote says, "People who grow up in families that are dysfunctional usually suffer from a lack of love and affection. This causes them to doubt themselves, their worthiness, and to feel like they don't deserve to be loved. One of the two primary human fears is that we won't be loved and accepted. If we don't get enough strokes and love as children, we usually grow up and try to chase and force people we desire to love us. We act needy, controlling, and desperate. This causes them to pull away, and if we do not back off properly, leave us for good. If you notice this happening in your love life, it's always best to match and mirror the actions of the other person when this happens, to give them the space and time to miss and then move towards you again. Over time, this will balance out how you feel about yourself, so you no longer chase people out of your life, but instead allow them to love you. Love is allowing." That's basically what happens when we chase and we pursue too much. We're not allowing the other person to love us. We're trying to force them to love us. And as the great Thich Nhat Hanh says, you must love in such a way that the person you love feels free. And if the other person doesn't feel that way, they're going to move away. And if we don't stop, eventually we'll bounce them right out of our life. So with that said, let's go to the first guy's email. He says, "Hi Corey, I've been dating about 3 to 4 different girls a week now, and since girls are plentiful for the first time in my life, thanks to what I learned in your book," obviously he's talking about How to Be a 3% Man, my first book. You can read it for free at understandingrelationships.com. All you gotta do is subscribe to the email newsletter. And the address is right below here on the screen. He says, "I've decided to cut out dating or matching with any girls that I perceive to be less than an 8. I mean, why wouldn't you? Because the reality is you're going to make a better effort if you're dating a 9 or what you perceive to be as a 9 or a 10. And the reality is beauty's in the eye of the beholder. A woman that I think is a 10 in a smoke show, you might be like, she's kind of mediocre, Corey. Doesn't really do anything for me. And vice versa. I get emails all the time from guys showing me pictures of the girl. Sometimes I'm like, wow, she is hot. Good job, bro. And other times I'm like, hey, if that does it for you, good job, dude. Whatever floats your boat. Beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. And what's interesting about that is we tend to be attracted to people who have the same kind of facial structure as us. It's really interesting. The eyes, the nose, just when you see two people are together and they're really happy, look at their facial structure. You see a lot of similarities there. It's really kind of fascinating. Like attracts like. People who like the same things tend to like each other. In some ways, we tend to attract people who kind of have the same look as us. He says, "So I'm only putting attention into 8s, 9s, and 10s, and the connections are a-comin'." And the reality is, because this is new for him, because a lot of times it's the physical beauty and what you perceive is your ideal. And the more you date and spend time with and get to seduce these kinds of women, the more you start to realize yeah, you're really not that impressed. Just because she's hot, you might not like her personality, or you just might not find her interesting or a good conversationalist, or really just jive how she lives her life and how she spends her spare time. But if you're not used to dating them like that, it's like you have a fantasy of what you think she is. But that's why it's so important. Repetition is the mother of skill. You have to date a lot, and you got to experiment a lot. It's like test driving a used car. You got to try before you buy. And most people don't really have choices, and they just marry the first person that comes along. He says, I tried reaching back out to Agent Super Bitch, and she didn't respond, but you gave great advice. This was the woman from, obviously, the alpha female video I mentioned earlier. So she got a nice hoodie out of it. I think she took off with his hoodie, and she's like, thanks for the hoodie. And he's like, you're welcome. I can't remember what he said. It was kind of a funny comeback, actually. He says, it was a hard lesson to swallow, but your video response made a lot of sense, and I totally had a stick up my ass. I also learned that every situation is different, and that I need to be more flexible and not be robotic in my actions. So he just had to employ some more humor, and not, because he kind of came across as being butthurt and controlling. Because, when you're applying this stuff in your book, just like when I was learning it myself, it's, sometimes you pursue too much, sometimes you're too much of a cold fish and you back off too much. It's finding that right level. Because again, if you grow up in a family where you get plenty of strokes as a kid, your parents love you, they build up your self-esteem, you feel good about yourself naturally. And you're going to match and mirror with a woman who kind of feels the same way about themselves, and you're not going to be doing these kinds of things to chase her out of your life. But for those of us like myself, and obviously this guy, and probably a lot of people watching this video, we have to learn this because we didn't learn it in childhood. It's like we have to, like Master Yoda said, we have to unlearn what we have learned. He says, I've really embraced the law of attraction lately, and I spend time each day imagining what it feels like to be with the perfect woman and then detaching from it. So it's good to kind of daydream and think about it and imagine yourself, as Wayne Dyer used to say, you want to contemplate yourself as being surrounded by the kind of conditions you want to create. And that's what part of it is. Because in your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So if you get used to what it feels like, then when you encounter that person, you've kind of already prepped yourself for it, and the universe kind of sends you the right people to match and mirror your beliefs and your perceptions about yourself. He says, seems like every time I let go of the fear of being alone and create space, a new amazing woman comes along out of nowhere. It's like you got to get to the point where you detaching from it is like you could care less. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, that's okay too. Time is going to pass, and eventually, with enough time and enough space and enough practice and repetition, you'll get another opportunity with somebody else. That's just reality. That's why you have to continually circulate and keep moving amongst humanity in your personal and your professional life and your social life, so you encounter new prospects, and then that way when an opportunity presents itself, you're ready and you can take advantage of it. He says, my problem is I've noticed that when I perceive a woman as a 9 or a 10, I can't help feeling slightly off my game. Well, this is because you're just not used to dating these kinds of women. And at the end of the day, because you probably didn't get enough strokes as a kid, on some level you're thinking, I don't deserve this. There's no way she's going to really love me. Because probably up until this point in your life, until you discovered my work, every time you did meet a woman like this, your fears, your insecurities took over, and you literally chased her right out of your life and turned her off because you displayed so many unattractive behaviors. He says, I was wondering if you had any advice for combating the distortion a guy feels while dating chicks classified in the upper echelon of the dating pool. I can't seem to not get phased, and wanted some tips on how to stay cooler than cool in the presence of a highly rated woman, kind of like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. What's like I talked about in the quote in the beginning, you got to match and mirror her actions. You match and mirror her level of effort. Because naturally women are going to their attraction for you and their interest and their effort it's never going to be consistent. It's going to kind of be up and down. It's just like a cat. You ever been around a cat? Cat jumps up in your lap, you pet it, it starts to purr, you're enjoying petting it, you like the affection the cat's giving you, the cat seems to like it, and at some point the cat just doesn't want to be touched anymore, and then it gets up and it leaves, and it goes and does its own thing. And when you chase after it and you pick it back up, then it really doesn't want to stay in your lap, and then it will run away from you. But if you just let it go, eventually the cat will come back to you, rub your leg, and eventually jump back up in your lap again. That's why I say women are like cats. They really are. They really behave that way. It's kind of fascinating. And then when you understand that and you see that and you practice that and you have enough repetitions with because the kind of women that you're used to always dating, you're no longer really interested in them, because before you didn't really have much of a choice. Now that you're starting to have choice with women, now you're stepping outside your comfort zone and you're having to deal with your insecurities, your fears, and your doubts. So you have to have enough time and repetition on dates and take enough of these 9s and 10s, 8s, 9s, and 10s through the seduction process, so all of those successes replace the fears that you have about yourself, and you just get used to them being in your life. So it's just going to take time and repetition. But the key is, and like you'll see in the next guy's email, is to get good at matching and mirroring that behavior that they're displaying. If the cat jumps out of your lap, let it be. It'll come back. If you spend 2 or 3 days together in a row, maybe you spend a weekend together, and then by Monday morning it just kind of feels like she's not as excited to be around you as she was on Monday, don't take it personally. It's just the kitty cat got a little bored. It'll come back. You have to trust that it's going to come back. And if it doesn't come back, that's okay too. Because you want the other person to choose you willingly. You got to love in such a way that the person you love feels free. So you got to just let her be. You say, I ask myself what makes me feel slightly off my game, and it never seems totally clear. Well, it's fear that you won't be loved. Fear that she may leave you for good and you may lose out on the 8, the 9, or the 10, because up until this point in your life, that's all you know. That's all your life experience. So your beliefs and your actions and your experience of life are all completely a match. And so by employing the stuff that's in my book, 3% Man, you're starting to actually date these kinds of women, but it's still new. You just don't have enough experience yet to overcome this fear and belief. But with enough time and enough repetition, like I said, I discussed it in my book. I went through the same process. It's just a mind fuck. It's what you're telling yourself. It's your self-perception. So you just need enough time in relationships with these kinds of women. And what do you date a woman like that for a year, 2, 3? It's like you no longer fear losing a woman. You realize it's really not that big a deal. It's just like when you're a kid and you dream and you can't wait for Christmas to come along, or your birthday, because you got this toy or this present that you want, and you dream about it, you fantasize about it for months. Maybe you save up some of your money and help contribute towards it, and then your parents spend the rest to get it for you. And then you get it, and you're excited, and it's awesome for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, it's at the bottom of your toy box, and you're not really, it's like, it's not really that big a deal. It doesn't impress you that much anymore. And that's what you'll see. That's just natural. It's like that with everything. Your perception of how great it's going to be is great when it happens, but it's just like people that go to the moon. It's like, how do you top going to the moon? Or you win the Super Bowl. It's one game. It's over in 60 minutes, basically. You have a party, you drink, and then the next day the season's over, and a few months later you're going to get your Super Bowl ring, and then the new season starts all over again. And what you did in the past really doesn't matter. It's the journey. You got to find joy in the journey. He says, but practice makes perfect, and I'm getting better at it. There you go. That's the key. It's just you need more time and repetition. That's all. He says, thanks for all your help. I bought your book, and I make it a point to like each video you put out. Well, I appreciate that. Like, comment, and subscribe, obviously. I always appreciate that. I've also suggested your book to every friend I have that's having trouble with women. You're a cool-ass dude, Corey, and I would be lost right now without your book and videos. Well, I appreciate it, and you're obviously a good student, and you're getting there. Give yourself a chance to learn and be a beginner every day. So let's go through the second guy's email. He says, "Hi, Corey." He says, "Thank you for sharing your knowledge with all of us that are open to it. I've shared your work with several people and they have bought your book and helped them turn their lives around. One of my brothers, on the other hand, was not open to it and has not done anything. He's continuing to have weight issues and marital issues. He just hasn't hit the wall yet, metaphorically. Hitting the wall is basically you get to the point where you're like, I'm fucking tired of this. I'm done with this. I got to figure this out. I'm tired of this pain, and I'm just no longer going to put up with it." He hasn't gotten there yet. He's not disgusted enough with himself or his life. Maybe it takes his wife leaving him or cheating on him or divorcing him or getting served with divorce papers. When he's in enough pain, he'll usually do something about it. People don't come to me when things are going well. They come to me when they're trying to get out of pain. And then that's when I can influence them. That's when they're actually open to learn something new. And he's just not open to it. You can offer, it's like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. He says, "I, however, read your book over 15 times, usually once every other month for over 2 years after I hit the wall with a girl. I made a donation of what I could afford right now and will continue to make donations as I grow both of my businesses." Well, I definitely appreciate the donations. And if you're on YouTube, if you just click the show more, there's a link in there. If you want to make a donation, you can set up recurring donations or a one-time donation. If you want to go to my website, understandingrelationships.com, there's a toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Click the donate button there. Again, set up a recurring donation if you want to make a monthly donation, any amount that you want, or a one-time. They're always appreciated. That way, everything, like I said, everything I offer is for free. My books are free. You have to read them on my website, obviously, but you can get all the information for free, just like all my YouTube videos. I don't put anything behind a paywall. If you don't like the ads, subscribe to YouTube Premium, and you don't have to watch any ads on anything. I do. It's worth the money. I fucking hate ads too. But you got to pay the bills, man. Got expenses. I was unhappy with my AC business and I looked for something else to do, and axe throwing came up in my life exactly when it was supposed to. I was open 4 months before COVID shut me down for 3 months. I was able to reopen because I was able to continue my AC business and I lived appropriately for my income level. Yeah, you always want your revenue to exceed your expenses. And if your expenses exceed your revenue, you got to either reduce your expenses or increase your revenue, or do both. Because eventually, if you don't, you're going to run out of capital and drain your bank account dry. After reopening, I knew the 1.5 year relationship I was in was fantastic and with a high quality girl that I could be content with for the rest of my life, but it wasn't 100% and I had to end it. It was so tough to do, and she's an amazing person and deserves better than someone that is just content. This woman helped me become better at this relationship stuff. I never learned any of this growing up and had a horrible upbringing with a confidence-destroying father and brother. I now have multiple father figures in my life that love me as their own son. My older brother respects, loves me, and now I am more of the older brother. A lot of this was due to me enrolling in jiu-jitsu and doing MMA fights. I am a black belt in jiu-jitsu and still compete in a professional jiu-jitsu matches at 41 years old. Good job, dude. This built my confidence and started me on a path to being alpha. Your work has taken it to another level in all my relationships and business. Where this thank you applies currently, businesses are doing well, and I have a girl that I have known for about 1.5 years, and we have had a connection, but she was fresh out of a relationship and part of a friends group. I've only hung out with her in a group a handful of times, but there was a crazy amount of attraction between us. Again, she was newly dating someone, and I didn't want the bad karma, so I just let it be. Just as I was ending the relationship with my girlfriend, she put herself into my orbit. Amazing how that works. Preparation meeting opportunity. She wanted to check out my axe place. I'll bet she wanted to check it out. And she came to throw axes with me. We left for drinks, and she wanted to come back and throw axes again, so we did, and that's when I went for the kiss after some playful teasing. We have been seeing each other a bunch, and the sex is amazing. She's actually coming over tonight to make her specialty dinner, and I will make her feel extra special in the sheets. Sweet. So here's the issue and the correction. Friday, she started to become a little distant and said something about she messed up, but it's all good now. She said she would tell me when we met Monday, today, and I didn't try to get more info as it was through texting. I could see she was backing off, and I backed off. I matched and mirrored her level. So this is the correct approach. The cat got a little bored. You don't know. Who knows? More than likely, the ex is probably trying to come back into her life. And when that happens, she's going to back off and test all the guys that are competing for her attention. And if you just let her be and everybody else is chasing her, what'll happen? The kitty cat's going to go, what happened to that guy? Why isn't he calling me as much? Is he not as into me? Is he dating somebody else? Curiosity. Cats are very curious. Give cats reason to be mysterious and curious about you, and they got to come figure out what the hell's going on and why they're so interested in you. I realized I had been texting way too much and backed off. She barely texted me Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. At night before bed on Sunday she texted, and I called her for 12 minutes and then got off the phone. She sounded so happy that I stopped the texting and called her. I almost didn't see what was going on, but your work had helped. I watched videos again on texting that attracts, passing our tests, how much contact is too much, thoughts on texting, dating, texting, calling, and messaging, texting that attracts versus repels. These are all obviously video newsletters and articles I've done, which you can Google these headlines. And finally, days when she pulls back. He says, I like this girl and feel crazy attraction for her, but it's only been a month of getting together, so I'm trying to keep the mystery and intrigue between us. She wasn't really into the last guy she dated and tried to make it work, and she tried to communicate with the guy, but to no avail. She had to end it. He was a clingy beta male with no sensory acuity. I believe the excessive texting started to make her feel that way again, and that it was becoming a relationship too soon. Yeah, she just wasn't feeling free, because keep in mind, she just got out of a relationship. And you're probably smothering her a bit, but it's great that you recognize that, because you noticed her actions, you noticed her backing off, you noticed her becoming different. And so you matched and mirrored that, and it worked like magic. You went almost 3 days with hardly hearing from her. Most guys freak out when that happens and think, I got to do something. Is there something wrong? Why aren't you calling me as much? Why aren't you texting me as much? Kitty cat's bored. It has nothing to do with you. Just let it be. I had asked her previously what was the most important thing to her in a relationship, and her response was freedom. Isn't that interesting? Your work has helped me realize these problems and the corrective actions. For now, we will see what happens, but I feel I am armed with knowledge, and I am now able to remain calm, cool, and collected. I wanted to give enough info that maybe this is shared in the future to help someone else that has met someone like this girl I am seeing now, and they don't fuck it up. The first guy, take note, because this guy is doing perfect. He's doing a great job. You notice he's not doing all the perfect actions, but he recognized that he was fucking up, and he took the proper corrective action. That's the important thing. He recognized he was screwing up, and he fixed it. Guys that don't know any better, they just don't stop until they get ghosted. I will continue to share with those open to making progress in their lives, and donate when I can. If you're up in the Philly region, please come do some axe throwing at my place on me. I appreciate you and your sharing of knowledge. Have a fan-fucking-tastic day, sir. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that great success story, because I know it's definitely going to help a lot of guys, because this is a super common problem, especially among, like I talked about in the beginning, guys that, like me, that just didn't get enough strokes in the family, and you doubt yourself, you doubt your worthiness. So you just need the time and repetition. So if you've got a situation or a problem, then you'd like to get my help or my analysis with it, and you're just struggling and your emotions are overwhelming you, you can go to my website, understandingrelationships.com, and all you got to do is hit the products tab at the top of your screen on any page, and you can book a coaching session with yours truly. And until next time, I will talk to you soon.